Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 61 of Behind the Camera with Andy Games, the podcast where we shine a light on the storytellers, the creatives, and the voices behind the camera. My guest this week is Rob Bach, founder and CEO of Spinny Media. Rob's got such an interesting story. He grew up with a real passion for music, found his way into the industry at just 18, and now helps artists and record labels sell more physical albums. We talk about the journey that led him there, the power of physical media in a digital age, and what it really takes to support musicians today. If you'd like to support the show, head over to the About section where you'll find a link to my Linktree. It has everything from social media pages and merch to the website and much more. Like, follow, share, comment, or leave a rating. Every little bit goes a long way, and I truly appreciate it. And now, here's the interview. Rob, welcome to Behind the Camera with Andy Games. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Amazing. Love to hear that. So yes, you are the founder of Spinny Media, which I really can't wait to talk about. But just before we do that, can you take us back to the beginning, just in terms of your journey with working within music and just your passion for music, even growing up?
Yeah. So my dad is a pianist and composer. All my siblings and I had classical music training. Mine was piano, violin, and voice. And my dad would pull out the accordion, get on the organ, get on the synthesizer, whatever he was passionate about, and play just about every night. So grew up in this soup of music that was just fantastic. So fast forward to, my first job outside the family business at a frozen yogurt shop. A guy walked in and said, "Hey, I'm opening up a music store down the street. I'd love to have you join." Said, "Sounds great." Happy to put aside my apron and joined Warehouse Music when I turned 18, way back in 1987. So to give your listeners a perspective, at that time there were 6 major labels. They controlled 80% of the music biz. You either had to be on a major label or an indie label to get your music out there. And we were actually just pulling vinyl out of the bins the first time to make room for compact discs in 1987. So since that time, I've been in the music industry almost the entire time, with Amazon helping them expand beyond books and take on music, video, and the world back in 1998. And then I joined CD Baby in 2009 and really got to jump into the independent side of music, helping every independent artist, every independent label get their music out there physically and then digitally and then for streaming. So it's been, I've seen a lot of changes over that time. It's been really incredible.
Yeah, it sounds as though you have probably seen everything that there is to see so far and then some, because what I find particularly interesting is the almost full circle moment here. When you get into the industry, you're pulling vinyls off the shelves for CDs, and now vinyls have been making a comeback for the last couple of years. I know that vinyls have become a very valuable collector's item, and now even to the point where artists are releasing vinyls as sort of special editions of their own albums. So and I'm sure obviously with Spinny Media and what you do now, a sort of the preservation of physical albums, that's probably a good thing for you to see as well.
Yeah, I really found the space with Spinny Media where independent artists didn't have a great place to go to help distribute their vinyl, get it up on marketplaces, have someone ship all those orders for them. So that's become my focus, but it's been a fantastic journey getting here. Essentially pulling vinyl out of the bins, and to use your analogy, putting vinyl back in the bins, here in our warehouse. And it's been fantastic. So I think the way the music industry works is if you're already selling, you can go get a physical distributor. They'll help you get into stores. They'll help you get up on Amazon, eBay, all the sites. But if you're selling, say, 500 or fewer copies a year, there just isn't a place for you to go to get help before Spin Media. So now we're there. It doesn't matter your size, your volume. We have a way to help you out and get on all these marketplaces and make sales. So it's been really cool to find that crossroads of independent music and independent label needs and still doing physical, because physical is the way to make money these days. You tour, you do physical, you're not going to get rich on streaming.
No, of course. And I think that's exemplified. Like if you go to any concert these days where there's like a local band playing or an up and coming band, they're maybe even supporting a big band. Something that they'll always say coming up to the end of their set is like they will preach that, like what you just said. And it's always a case of, buy our CDs, and CDs are the big things that they try to push, as well as like their t-shirts,
Mhm.
their other merch, because like you say, you can't get rich from streaming. I think I think it's like maybe less than a cent per 1,000 plays or something crazy like that for most platforms. I know most platforms are
Yeah.
different, but you need to be hitting the hundreds of thousands to millions to really kind of have anything sustainable when it comes to streaming.
Yeah, I think streaming has its uses. It's very portable. And, I always have my Walkman. I still have a CD player in the car. But streaming is just really easy and easy to carry with you, and
Mm-hmm.
it's good for marketing to potentially new fans. But when it comes to actually enjoying the music, like in its fully intended, lossless format, whether it's compact disc or vinyl, enjoying it with friends, that's really better served by physical media,
Yeah.
whether it's a CD or vinyl or whatever. So it's really cool to be on that side of the business again, really focused on that. And all these artists who, back in the 2000s were starting to go towards digital only, like this is free or cheap, it's easy to get out there, I have this huge reach. The promise of that just hasn't been fulfilled for most artists. Some artists like hit it, they get a TikTok sensation and they make money from streaming. But most don't make any meaningful money from streaming. So, like we're talking about is touring. It's that merch table at your concert or in a pub. Like you have your CDs.
Yeah.
Somewhere where people can drop by and buy them. That's where most artists are making their money today. And even if your aspiration is like, I'm not going to do this full time, you probably at least want to get paid back for all your costs, make some profit, be able to go to that next gig, make that next album. So regardless of whether you're thinking about filling stadiums one day, or you just want to make enough money to pay yourself back and have a little bit of pocket money, this physical formats can do that for you.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And would you say then, like in terms of independent bands, that streaming has its benefits in terms of getting their start, in terms of getting more ears onto the music, and then kind of going the physical direction?
Yeah, I think it can work both ways. So I think there are touring musicians and there are non-touring. And touring, I would include people doing local gigs. If you're touring, I think you need physical right out of the gate because you're going to have that merch table, and it's a great way to engage people. Like sitting and listening to an artist and having the artist go over to the merch table and sign a CD for you or a vinyl. It's just fantastic. As me as a fan, like I love this band. I'm going to tell 10 people about it. That's how you really engage your fans. If you're not a touring musician, I think streaming is a good place to be for people to hear you. But again, you really want to have some way to connect through your socials and everything else to your physical product, because that's where you're going to make money.
Yeah.
So I think if you're touring physical right out of the gate, I see more and more streaming or digital only artists doing physical even as a limited edition before they release to stream platforms. So they'll release their album to fans they've already got. You guys get the first crack at it, buy my CD, buy my vinyl, and later on I'll give it to streaming. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But physicals, one of the only ways you're going to make some money, and it's a better fan engagement anyway. I don't know about you, but like I'm looking to my right, you can't see it, but I've got a stack of records over there, and it's from decades. I've got stuff from the 1950s through to more recent albums. I've got 78s. I've got all this history that just sounds beautiful on a turntable.
Oh, for sure.
And you just can't replace it with streaming.
No, 100%. And like the sound quality from physical media, I've always found was a lot different as well than the digital. And there's like a lot more of a crisp, cleaner sound, especially if you have like a CD and it's coming through like a really good set of speakers. It's even making me like feel a bit nostalgic as well, because I remember when I would have been like my early teens, having a CD player, and I would have been in school at the time, and I would have wore like my blazer, and I would have had my CD player sitting in the blazer pocket with about 3 different CDs that I used to rotate during the day or each day for like my bus journeys to and from school. And now it's I think, and I think actually as well back then, even with physical media, it's like you said before, and like the point you touched on, where you get to enjoy the music a lot more. And I think it's obviously because if you're going to listen to an album start to finish, you're doing that for a purpose. You're wanting to listen to that to take it all in. Whereas with streaming and the sort of spontaneity of it in a way, as good as it can be for discovering bands, I kind of feel like it takes away from the attention span a little bit because you then are spoiled for choice and you don't really know what you want to listen to after a certain point.
Yeah, that all resonates with me too. I'll give an embarrassing confession and then see if you want to follow me. Not required, but I bought a visor to fit in my car for CDs, just to slot in CDs because I have a CD player in my car. Like I should go through a box. I grabbed my A box or the beginning of my A box for CDs. I have a lot of CDs too. And I've been listening kind of nonstop to Asia's first album, so that's my embarrassing embarrassing admission. But there's nothing like it. Even when I plug in for streaming in the car, the CD just sounds so much better.
Yeah. But then I suppose like whenever like it came to it, like that was how music was recorded, wasn't it? It was recorded for these like specific purposes. Like, I mean, I obviously I don't know too much about it, but digital recording surely would have come after. It was all done for vinyl, CDs, tapes, etc.
Yeah, I used to. So during the 1987, 1988 period, digital recording really took off. So there were CDs in 80, as early as 85. I remember David Bowie's catalog getting re-released and buying everything on RCA. But it was a little bit later when people actually started doing recordings in digital, and you'd look at a CD and it had 3 letters on it. It said DDD. That was physically recorded digitally, mastered digitally, and put to a digital format. So it was like a kind of bragging rights if you're doing everything digitally and then getting it on a CD because the sound was crisp, like crazy good. So that used to be a thing. But prior to 85, still a lot of analog recording, but the mastering could really make the difference in getting it to CD or in the past into vinyl. There's some fantastic people who just master vinyl and make it beautiful. It's incredible when you have a good engineer and mastering technician.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So when it comes to mastering, then say pre-digital, would that have taken longer for them to be like remastered for more modern platforms?
Yeah, it could. So if you take, I'm thinking of like a Bob Ludwig who'd been doing stuff from the 70s on up. He would have been working with multi-track tape and getting it all to a master, and then getting that tape essentially moved over to create a lathe and press physical records. What typically happened when the digital formats came out, either one, they didn't remaster them, and those didn't sound as good, or they remastered specifically for digital. So they'd have often a different engineer go in and really optimize it for crisp sound on disc.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I think it's just so interesting how it goes because I've obviously see a lot more remasters coming out, like especially for anniversaries. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is like Metallica. Like a lot of their like 80s albums and even the early 90s albums were remastered after the fact, and like I mean you can tell the difference, of course. Like you can tell the difference no matter what platform you're listening to it on, and it's do you feel like it's important then remastering, especially for vinyl and CD, just to sort of like keep the kind of spirit alive of the physical media?
Yeah, I think for artists in particular, when they're releasing an album in the digital only era, I talk to a lot of artists who are like, hey, I've just put together this album or this song and I'm going to release it. Great. When are you going to release it? Today. I just finished it. Like there was no planning involved. They may or may not have mastered it. That's not the best way to go. So really, even today, if you're producing music, you want to produce it, you want to record it, you want to have someone engineer it and master it, so it'll sound good on whatever formats that you're going to do. And those remasters are amazing. You hear things that you've never heard before. So as an artist, I get to make that choice. I can say like, hey, I want a master for vinyl. I want a warm sound. I want something that actually understands how the vinyl works, because different parts of the vinyl sound different just based on physics. So you can get some really good remastering these days, relatively inexpensively. There's automated remastering. It's okay, probably better for digital. And then there's remaster technicians who just do a fantastic job. But that Metallica example is great. I bet you heard stuff that you'd never heard in the original to kind of come up through the mix.
Oh yeah, 100%. You really do hear the layers really kind of come out from well, 20, 30, 40 years of just history, I suppose, as well. It's just such fascinating stuff. So then in regards to Spinny Media, then whenever you have people reach out to you, send you in their music, would they send you in their work like digitally, and then you are able to then to put it onto CDs and vinyl and make it physical, or what way does it work in terms of like a sort of consumer structure?
Yeah, so we deal with the finished product. So people send us their actual CDs
Mm-hmm.
all ready for retail, or their actual vinyl, or their actual cassettes. And we partner with manufacturers. So if someone says, I need a manufacturer, I want to work with you guys, but I haven't pressed my disc yet, we send them to a trusted partner like disc makers who I've worked with for decades. And they do a really good job, not just on the art. They have art in-house. It looks great. But then they also have mastering technicians if you want them. They're full service.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll get you the CDs or the vinyl at a really good price. And they'll even drop ship to us. So you can order from them and have them drop ship to us instead of have them send them to you and have you send it on to us. So we work upstream with manufacturers who can help any artist. And then once it gets into our warehouse, we ingest it into our systems and get it posted on, these days, 4 marketplaces. So we just announced we start working with Walmart, but you can basically subscribe. We'll get you up on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and our own Shopify store. And that really maximizes your reach. So you can put up on your socials, on your website, send them to our Shopify powered store, the Spinny Marketplace. But also casual fans can find you just about everywhere else.
Oh, okay. That's a really good structure. So would it be a case then when somebody goes to buy a CD from a particular artist, then they place the order, but then that goes through you who does like the drop ship and yeah.
Yep, exactly. And that also works on Bandcamp. We work with a lot of artists that are using our marketplaces, but also have a Bandcamp store. So they can say for Bandcamp stores, Spinny's going to do all my fulfillment. And we just get those orders as they come in and ship them on to the fan. So that's another good way for artists to work with us.
Yeah, that's a really good structure. Like I definitely feel like it's taken like a modern way of selling in terms of drop ship and sort of relaying it to something that should just never really kind of go away in terms of physical media. Like, and because physical media is, because I think for one, it is kind of coming back. Like obviously we mentioned in terms of vinyls, but in terms of being collector's items as well. Like, I mean, CDs, they've been around for well over 40 years, and it is just the sort of thing. Why would you I know technology moves on, but when you talk about the quality of it, especially listening to a CD and a vinyl, you want to kind of hear the music for how it was recorded and what like the whole purpose it was done for. So yeah, you obviously, we've talked about your extensive history then in the music industry. So just going back to then that day, you're working in the frozen yogurt store and you get approached about coming to work in a record store. Do you feel like that was like your stars aligning moment, given your history as a musician, coming from a musical family, then all of a sudden the doors open to this opportunity? Like, do you feel like that just was a sign?
Yeah, it was kind of a build up of, it was both a sign and it made sense at the time, in the sense that I had worked at my mom and dad's retail store for years as a kid. So customer service was really ingrained in me. So, I'm at the frozen yogurt stand taking orders and chatting people up and being really personable. And Bob Middleton, the guy who's opened up the warehouse, came in, felt like he got great customer service and he wanted that in his store. So I got in, based on my retail background with my parents' store. And then Bob said, you should come work for me. Like, sounds great. And that got me into music. So yeah, it was this great alignment of stars. And also just this thing that I appreciate my parents for, both the music background and the retail training. Those things got together and got me into a music store. And then I got a chance to learn everything from the ground up. Like, I was renting VHS tapes, for anybody who remembers those. Then I got to move up into the music. That was a promotion if you could control the stereo up front to play music for in the store. So eventually I got up front and I could talk to customers and And then I moved into the back room because I got really good at warehouse and logistics and stuff. So ultimately, I was behind the scenes, but pulled out every time someone said, "I heard the song on the radio." They'd call me up out of the stock room for them to hum a couple bars for me, so I could go, "Oh, it's right over here."
Brilliant.
So that was my party trick in retail.
Yeah. But then, like, I mean, obviously having your sort of experience through your family with music, and then going into this record store, and it's like opened up your world in a way that, you know, you might not have even realized, or having played music, been exposed to it, and now you're really kind of seeing how the industry works, even though albeit a sort of small part of it. Like, and what was it then that influenced your decision to sort of lead on to spinning media from working in the record store and being exposed to the retail side of music?
Yeah, I think it was again kind of that progression. So I left CD Baby just less than a year before they shut down their warehouse. So CD Baby pivoted away from physical and digital distribution to just focus on digital. And that was okay. That was their call. But I just felt that there was a huge gap in the market. So I got together with some former CD Baby colleagues, and we came up with Spinning Media as a way to fill that gap in the market, to make sure that anybody who releases music could get help on the physical side. It's tough when you're an independent artist. Let's say you've got Bandcamp or Bandzoogle stores, and an order comes in, drop everything, pack it up, run to the post office for that one store, for that one order, and then maybe 3 days later do it again. But maybe it's 5 days later. Maybe it's 3 orders in one day. It's tough to keep up if you've got a day job, you're gigging, you're doing all this other stuff. So we wanted to take that off of the independent artists and independent labels plate and do it with the professionalism that we've honed through that entire music experience. Like every package is packed well, everything's got tracking. It's done like we used to do it for 14 years at CD Baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like really you've taken like your experience in retail and customer service all the way throughout your career, and I suppose like when it comes to sort of any form of retail, like customer service is a fundamental part of it, because if you're dealing with people, they obviously want a good experience, and especially when it comes to an artistic project like music, and for independent artists of all people, because of how competitive it is, that they there's a lot of trust that essentially goes into the craft.
Yeah, and I think that's true as the CEO and founder of a company, but it was also true on the retail floor. You know, when you're talking with a customer, they're like, "Oh, I like this song," and I, go, "Oh, that song's like these three other artists. Can I introduce you to them?" There was always this conversation about music, and that's the same conversation I'm having with independent artists and labels today. Like, we can take care of this. Do you have any other sites you need us to care for you? It's making sure that we're really meeting them where they're at and with what they need. But yeah, I miss parts of the retail experience. We do have a ton of music stores here in Portland, Oregon, more outsized than typical record stores, CDs, cassettes. So I can still go in and enjoy that experience. In other areas, I think it's a little harder to get out there and sit down and talk with a retail clerk where you're like, "Oh, I like this band." They're like, "Oh, you like that band? Here's 6 other bands outside the algorithm that you never would have heard of." So that part I miss on the retail side. But certainly we get in so many interesting artists at Spinning Media. We've got jazz, we've got blues, we've got pop, artists. We even picked up some of my favorite 80s artists through a label we just signed. So now we're distributing A Flock of Seagulls in Berlin and Wing Chun. And I was like, "Ooh, this is great." But all different kinds of artists. And I've just explored and listened to so much new music that's coming into Spinning Media. It's expanding my world at the same time that I'm being able to help other people.
Yeah, and that's the most amazing thing to me about music, is that you'll never ever get your fill of it. There's always going to be something that you can find that you're just like, yeah, this is good, and you enjoy it. Something good for like a shop floor type situation, whatever it may be, but you just enjoy it. And then of course that snowballs. Other people will then hear like, "I've never heard this," and it kind of like takes the underground up to sort of grind level, which is like such an incredible thing. So then obviously with this like obviously digital age that we're in now, we've got social media, streaming and everything. So how do you sort of see the line between, say, like an independent band, unsigned, wanting to get big, but using social media to promote their Spotify page versus somebody who wouldn't really be as social media sort of savvy, we'll say, who wants to just sort of keep to the physical copies of music?
Yeah, it's hard to do it without some platform to let your
Mhm.
artist know about what you're doing. So you might have been lucky and been able to put together a web page and collect emails and keep in touch with your artist that way. But it is hard this day and age to just be a writer, just be a musician, just focus on your craft. Part of at least wanting to stretch and try to be, a professional musician, whatever
Mhm.
that means to people. But like, I'm doing this not just because I love it, but I also want to make some money at it. I
Yeah.
also want to engage fans and find more fans. You end up having to wear so many hats. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to start a business. I've got marketing, I've got social media, I've got distribution, I've got contracts when I'm going out on the road. There's a lot of work there. But that's again why I try to encourage artists to look at best in class. You need a digital distributor? Great. There's a bunch out there. You need a physical distributor? Great. We're the best. It's Spinning Media. But also, like, if you need help on marketing, it's okay to reach out to people who do this for a living. Certainly get some tips and tricks and use the tools, because these days you kind of have to have some kind of presence out there for marketing reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's got me thinking as well. Because if you're at a concert or a gig or anything like, and got a table, merch table full of CDs, I feel like that's more incentivizing than kind of you hear a song from a support band who you've never heard before. You're like, I kind of like that. Didn't catch the name of it, but I'm gonna, search through their Spotify. When then it's just sitting on the table right in front of you, and it's going a long way um for the band themselves. And it has been such a hot topic for bands, especially independent bands, for a long time. But I think especially since COVID, because obviously
Mhm.
COVID, like, all these people were out of work for the guts of 2 years. And like, I think there's more of a reliance on people spending the money to go see shows, to buy the t-shirts, to buy the CDs. And I'm sure, like, obviously, then that's where you come in. You get to play like a really big part in that. And would you say that, like, the fact that there is that kind of reliance has sort of helped bring more people in the door to spinning media?
I think so. There's a couple things coming together. I think the fan base is expanding for physical, as you said. It's younger people. It's not,
Mm,
people like me who have record collections. They really recognize that digital is pretty ephemeral. You may go on there and find that the tracks you liked got pulled down. You may find that your service is down. You may not like the the quality of the recording coming through a compressed, player. And so I'm seeing my own kids, all their friends, going to record stores and going to shows and buying from the merch table, because that is community.
yeah.
It really is. It's engaging. You can go through the liner notes. You can really enjoy the music the way it was intended. So I'm seeing a lot of people who are new to physical, particularly younger people, really putting down their phones, walking even away from smartphones and going back to flip phones to get the analog experience and the community that comes with it. Then I saw a band not too long ago. They were an opener. The only stuff they had out was a couple of demos on SoundCloud. But you know what? They had a CD at the show and I think a cassette, and I bought those.
Yeah.
That was the first revenue they've probably ever seen on physical, was through their merch table. And they were just starting out and not sure where they wanted to go yet. It was so just fantastic to be able to pick up that physical merch, support them, and listen to them before anybody else got a chance to, which is a weird thing, but it's like, this is a discovery. I want to tell everybody about this band.
Oh, 100%. Because, like, the thing is, you don't know where they're going to be in 5 years. Like, if that band takes off, and like, maybe it's a sort of vain status thing, but like, you could be like, I saw them when they were playing this club with 100 people in it, and I bought
Yeah.
their cassette and their CD in 2025 of all years. And like, that's just, yeah, like, I think it is just such a cool thing to to have, and it is cool that people are going back to that. Although that being said, I don't think the return to cassettes has kind of made its way over here just yet. But I think it's close. I think it's
Yeah,
close.
it's really odd because it sounds like you did, and I certainly lived through the age of cassette players in the car.
Yeah.
And I threatened for every cassette that we fulfilled, I would create a spinning media pencil and send the number 2 pencil with the cassette out as a tool to use when you need it. People wouldn't get that until their first cassette unraveled.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a thing. It's an object that people are really enjoying. In fact, I've come across a couple labels now that only do cassette releases.
Really?
And particularly in rap, hip hop, the kind of mixtape culture has been really important to keep on cassette. So there's this cultural element, there's this kind of cool, kitschy element, and then you can listen to it for however long the cassette actually lasts.
Yeah, I get the A sides and the B sides, like taking it out after 45 minutes, flipping it over. And it's actually kind of funny you mentioned about cassette players in the car, because I think my first 2 or 3 cars that I ever had all had cassettes in them. And like I feel like at least here, like the cassette players in cars, that was the last of a dying breed. But I always thought that a cassette tape in a car was the most convenient way to use it, because you could do it without looking. You knew what way it was, whereas like a CD, you're kind of fumbling around with the case, or if you've got it in. This is really kind of going back, but those little kind of album books that you had like the little slots in them, and you would have like kept the actual CD case in somewhere else. Yeah, like I always thought like a cassette tape in a car was quite handy. Although that being said, though, I don't know what you're gonna make of this, but like what some like manufacturers had done was they like created like a cassette tape that was compatible with the cassette in your car, but it also had like an auxiliary cable feeding into it that you could plug into your phone.
The headphone jack is a 3.5 millimeter thing that plugged into my Rio player. So I had the MP3, like a really early Rio player that stored like 50 songs on it, because it was really limited when it came out. And yeah, I totally used that. Plugged in the cassette, plugged in my Rio MP3 player, and listened to MP3s.
Oh god, I remember like I think I was like 10 years old, maybe 11 years old, and like because I was only getting into music at this point in time, like through my brothers, and they had like I was given this like small little MP3 player with a pair of headphones wrapped around the ear, the wired, and I think maybe it had about 7 or 8 songs on it, because that was all it could. It was a very kind of like low budget, low brand kind of thing. It was a sign of the times at that point. And like you said, like we are kind of going back to that. I can give you an example. My younger brother, he's 23 years old, but you would kind of think that that he never lived in like this kind of digital age, because he like when he was probably about 18, 19, like he decided to invest in a really good vinyl player, and he's like got such a big collection of vinyls. And he was explaining the whole thing to me in terms of like how like the analog recording, the sound coming from the actual the vinyl itself. And so like I remember one Christmas I bought him it was the album 2001 by Dr. Dre on vinyl. And I was just thinking, this is going to be a great vinyl, this, that, and a great album. And it turned out to be the censored version. So it was basically just background music for about 45 minutes. So it was I was like, okay, I mean, I guess I'm kind of hearing the, the sort of the layers of the music and everything and what it should be. But yeah, like I it's just an example of how it's like kind of coming back. And like we've got like over here, like in particular parts of the UK, I've seen like a lot of pop-up record and vinyl sort of shows that have come up, and like a lot of independent retailers will all congregate in just somewhere at this little event, and people can go and just sort of buy all these different vinyls that people unknowingly got rid of years ago, not knowing that they'd have been worth something some
Yeah.
20, 30 years later.
Yeah, I am guilty as a vinyl collector of hitting the bargain bins in the 90s and buying fantastic vinyl for $1 a piece. So
Nothing
yeah,
wrong with
it's,
that.
there's some great finds that way, and some of them have, I've resold some of mine for 150, $200 a pop.
But see, that's the thing, though. I mean, and I kind of think that's the sort of beauty about physical media, is that there does be some value in terms of, even if you don't see it at the time, like it might not really be worth much at the time, because obviously, like with say bigger artists, they probably had like millions and millions of CDs printed ready to go off the shelves, and sort of, well, it just works the same way as inflation, doesn't it? Really, the more of something there is compared to the demand, like
Yep.
the value is going to be low. But I think as well, and especially with what you guys do with the drop shipping, I think that just increases the value, because then if something is, if there's only a finite amount of something, then, who knows what it could be worth in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, we've got artists who do pre-sales through us, and they will make that pre-sale often special. They might sign something, include a signed postcard, something that really adds to the collectability and also acknowledges, like, hey, thanks for being a fan. So I love that kind of engagement. And yeah, you never know what it's going to be worth in the future, but you do know you own it. Nobody's going to come in and take it away, pull it down so you can't listen to it, change terms and conditions so that you don't want to be on that platform. You actually own it, and you can loan it out. You can listen with friends. There's just something unique about that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I remember the days whenever there was always, I think, like every group had that like one friend who had like every CD going at the time, and then that's who you'd turn to get your like little mixtape burned onto like a random CD
Yep,
so often
yep.
back in the day. So
Well, even the cassette tapes that way, like I have
yeah.
cassette tapes still that I can see it's from a particular friend. They dated it, they wrote a little message in there, and they put together the tracks that they recorded either off the radio or off of vinyl. They're really precious. They are
Oh
these
yeah.
time capsules that are amazing.
100%, yeah. Like I kind of hope that the cassette makes its way back over here. I mean, I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen people donning them just yet, but but then I guess I probably just haven't really just looked hard enough or really thought about it at that point. But then I am at the kind of age now where like I'll be in work with people and they've never even heard of a cassette tape.
Hmm.
They obviously know CDs, but they've never actually seen a CD. The closest thing they can say they've seen a CD is a DVD or a floppy disk as well. Like they've never seen a floppy disk. It's like it's
Yeah.
just sort of wow. Like I mean, so like it is comforting to know that these things
Yeah.
are timeless.
And the players are coming back into fashion. So manufacturers are starting to manufacture new CD players. Certainly a lot of turntable players,
Mm-hmm.
record players. But you're also seeing some cassette Walkman come back, which just cracked me up. They usually have an output, kind of like we were talking earlier, so you can record it to your computer.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a Walkman format, but it's also ready for digital transfer.
See,
These are kind of fun.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's living in the present day. Like, I mean, keeping the spirit of something alive whilst also having it sort of relevant to the formats and platforms that we use today. Like it's clever. I'll have to look
Yeah.
out for one of them. I think it'd be kind of cool. Like especially like just for days out, want to save battery on my phone, want to listen to something specific, just get the
Yeah,
Walkman.
for me, I even found a tape. Did an interview for like a genealogy project in high school with my grandmother, who passed away quite a while ago. But I was digging through my cassette tapes, and I found this, and I put it into the transfer machine, and now I've got my grandmother on my computer from 1986,
That's
telling us
incredible.
what life was like, when they used to race to the windows to see airplanes go by.
That's
It's
incredible.
so amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that what I love about that is that's essentially a legacy preserved right there. You know, it's I had a similar conversation with somebody recently where the sort of thing that obviously years ago wasn't necessarily much of a way to sort of preserve your legacy in terms of things like that. But you know, you find an old cassette tape, you can now put that on a computer like you have, and like that's just such an amazing thing to be able to do and to look back on that in a way that like most people wouldn't have got.
Yeah, no, I think there is that analog to digital, kind of collaboration
Mm-hmm.
that's fantastic. And the analog piece is just so important still, both for the past, but more and more, in the current. It's a way, like we've talked about, for artists to make money, for fans to get engaged. And it's that keepsake, it's that object that reminds you you're never going to hit most of the stuff on your streaming platform again. Like in one ear, out the other, you're just not going to go revisit it and cherish it. But if it's on your shelf and you pull it down, like, oh, I haven't heard this vinyl forever, I'm going to put it on. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. So aside from then working in the record store, I believe you also had a mobile DJ business for a couple of
Mm.
years back in the day. So what can you tell us about that and how that worked?
It was fun. So I was working actually at Warehouse Music and decided to do a side gig because I just always had a hobby business. And DJing seemed like a really good idea. One, because obviously the music side, and two, I could purchase music as a business expense and handle things that way. So I was like, oh, this is great. And I'll perform too. It's fine. But yeah, I started with a friend of mine, Eric. We started a mobile DJ business called the Art of Parties. And if anybody knows the Japan song, they'll know why I picked that title. So it was a total new wave deep track steel, and we ended up playing a lot of weddings and holiday kind of parties and things like that. And then we hooked up with another DJ. They had excess business, and they were feeding us tons of gigs. So I ran with Eric the Art of Parties until I went to go work for Virgin Megastores.
Mhm.
It was kind of like, ooh, Virgin Megastores, it's my first salary job. It's a full-time thing. Am I going to keep the side gig or not? And then wound down the DJ business. But we ran it for almost 3 years.
Mhm.
And again, taking that customer service side to every wedding, like, what kind of event do you guys want to have? We'd step in if the wedding coordinator, particularly was a family member, kind of disappeared or wasn't managing things. We'd step in to make sure the day went well for the bride and groom and for their family. So it was a really fun couple of years, just getting out there and playing music loud. And I had even my most favorite one, which was actually a retail customer who approached me about DJing for his wedding, and he wanted every new wave deep track that I had in my catalog. So that was my personal collection, and that was a super fun wedding to play.
Brilliant. I love that. Like, do you ever wonder like what might have been had you kept that on just for the future?
Yeah, I don't look back and regret a whole lot because there's always that next thing like, oh, that fits in, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed that, and I got a chance to go back to DJing for the pandemic.
Oh, very
So
nice.
with the pandemic, I have a Mixcloud account, and I went in and did virtual DJ shows once a week. It was just again like, oh, I have all this music and I'd love to do this and play the stuff I really want to play. So if you search DJ Rue Montag, that was my name for the virtual DJing on Mixcloud. It's all up there. It's a lot of 80s stuff and kind of like almost librarian, like, oh, back in '69 there was this band, and in '70 this music sound. You can see it shaping into the '80s. So it was really fun to do. Again, kind of limited engagement once stuff opened back up, and I was able to go back out to clubs. I went to clubs instead, but it was a super fun to get back into DJing during the
Yeah.
pandemic.
That's incredible. Like, I absolutely love that. That was something you did years ago, but have just sort of been able to get back into it just simply because it's fun. You know, obviously, you know, you have spinning media and everything else, but like just you're able to kind of still live that side of it when you can, and that's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think with my kids, and this has always been true from my dad to me, it was like we're creators. You
Mm.
can't just consume. You need to put something out there. So that's really part of what I always am thinking about. My background's in creative writing, so I can do blogs and put stuff out there, which I've done also. But anytime I can put, kind of curated music out there or help a band, make money from their music,
Hmm.
all these things feel like they're contributing. They're not just consuming. And that balance is really important for me.
No, of course, of course. And have you ever dipped your toe into writing your own music as well?
There are a couple embarrassing examples. I don't. My dad was commissioned to make some commercials for a local car dealership. I mean, it doesn't get any tackier than that. The car dealership went by the name Wizard of Cars.
Okay,
So
when
my
I
dad,
say that, yeah, okay, I can see.
yeah.
Could might not how tacky could it be? And then yeah,
Yeah, my dad made some very clown sounding carnival music for their background music. And I think I contributed percussion tracks to that. I had a DX7 synthesizer in my room all the time. So I went out and did some percussion tracks for that and for some other songs for him. Aside from that, I've made a couple ringtones that were pretty good.
fair play.
And just kind of played around. So I enjoy doing it. I haven't embraced it and put anything out there under my own name for quite a while.
You know what? Fair. Like, I mean, I think it's always good to sort of try these things once, even if it is of a specific nature. You know, like you say, being a creative, you you want to kind of sort of live both sides of putting something out there whilst also sort of being a consumer and kind of being a part of that world too.
Yeah, I think on the creative side, the fear of rejection, the anticipatory fear of and someone not liking your stuff, whatever you're
Hmm.
putting out there, exists in all of us, including me. So it's really important that I also do create and get stuff out there to confront that and understand, have empathy for something that every musician that comes to us has gone through.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and especially with how competitive the music industry is, always has been, and probably always will be. I kind of only think I think with the matter of accessibility, it's only going to get more and more competitive, especially with social media, short form content. People are able to sort of put snippets of their own music onto TikTok and Instagram videos,
Mhm.
and that kind of becomes almost somewhat of an incentive for people to go and check out their music. And
Yep.
I think when people have that kind of quick means of checking something out, sometimes like the last thing on their mind is a CD. But as we've said, like with everything kind of coming full circle to what it was, like hopefully it long may it continue.
Yeah, and I've seen people, particularly when I was with CD Baby, who had a viral hit on TikTok. Got added to a lot of different videos.
Mm.
One of them actually did sea shanties. So their streaming picked up for sea shanties, but again, physical was a way for them to make music. So how do you convert that really casual, like, oh, I like this in the background of a video, to go check out your stuff? There's a TikTok store, things you can do to merchandise your music. And we're doing that more and more too, seeing how we can get on and help people merchandise their music. But I think, yeah, there's so much content out there. There's over 100,000 tracks released every day on Spotify, and I'm sure that number's gotten bigger. And how many of those are actual artists versus AI music or AI generated music?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
competition is tough, and that's why I encourage a lot of artists, like, start local. Like, if you're gigging at a local place, that's where your fans are going to be. Get your merch table going. You'll grow from there if you keep working on it. But I think it's more the reason to really focus on fan engagement, not just can I get on a streaming platform, because there's so much out there,
Hmm.
but can you engage your fans with physical music, with touring, with some social media and kind of engagement there? Those are all ways to thank your fans for being there and have them feel like they're part of your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. We just I kind of think with something like that, you just got to kind of keep it old school, the way it always was back in the day, up until everything became digital. You just got to kind of keep the same spirit of it alive. And as I say, thankfully we're kind of coming back to that now with, well, so here vinyls, hopefully soon to be cassette tapes and
Well,
CDs.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure we have at least a couple cassette tapes on Spinny. So, let me know how I can help you out. But you also have your used stores you can pop in, and cassettes are cheap.
Exactly.
It's kind of fun.
Cheap for now, anyway.
Yep. Yeah. Vinyl not cheap anymore.
Yeah.
But coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
There aren't the bottlenecks we had during the COVID pandemic when there was just no production capacity.
Yeah.
So there's more capacity out there, and you can manufacture for less money than you could even just a couple of years ago.
Brilliant. Well, Rob, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Behind the Camera with Andy Games. Thank you so much for your time. Just before we wrap up, I would just like to give you the floor just to let the audience know where can they find you, Spinny Media, and everything else.
Yeah, so best way to find Spinny Media is at our web address. It's spinnymedia.com. You can get on there. You can see what we do to help out artists and independent labels. And also you can shop our store, store.spinnymedia.com. If you're a fan, that's a great place to go to find tons of physical products, vinyl, CDs from a bunch of different artists that we work with. Those are the two best ways. And people can also reach out to me directly. It's just rob@spinnymedia.com. Feel free to email me. You got questions, you want to chat about some music you love. I'm easily distractible in the music universe, and appreciate any recommendations for stuff I should be listening to.
Absolutely. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Once again, Rob, thank you so much for your time. Been an absolute pleasure chatting.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
And there you have it. That brings us to the end of episode 61 of Behind the Camera with Andy Games. A huge thank you to Rob Bach for being this week's guest. He certainly provided an incredible insight into the music industry and what it takes to keep physical media alive while supporting independent musicians. Once again, if you'd like to support the podcast, my link tree in the About section has everything from socials, merch, website, all of the good stuff. A follow, rating, share, all goes a long way. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.